Stop explaining yourself. You don't owe everyone a PowerPoint presentation on why you said what you said or why you did what you did. Every time you start breaking down your reasons, toxic people hear something very different than what you think you're saying. You think you're clearing things up. They think they've got you defending yourself. And once you're in that position, you're not talking as an equal anymore. You're talking like you need their approval to exist. The more you explain, the more hooks you hand them to pull you into another argument. They'll twist your reasons, poke holes in them, or bring them back up later as ammunition. You don't need to run your decisions through their personal court system. Your choices, your boundaries, they're already valid because you decided them. And here's the thing, explaining yourself doesn't actually change their opinion. It just gives them more material to work with, more doors to walk through, and more ways to push past the line you're trying to hold. Set clear boundaries once, not 5 times, not every time they cross the line, once. The problem is, most people treat boundaries like polite suggestions instead of actual lines in the sand. You say, I don't like when you do that, and when they push again, you rephrase it, soften it, or give them another long explanation. And what happens? They learn the rule is flexible. With toxic people, the more you repeat yourself, the more they think you're still negotiating. You're not. A real boundary is like a locked door. You tell them it's locked, and if they keep pushing, you don't argue about the lock, you stop answering the door. You don't need to raise your voice, you don't need to give warnings, and you definitely don't need to justify why it's there. The moment you treat your own boundaries like non-negotiables, they either have to adjust or they lose access. And if they don't adjust, you don't need to remind them again, you just act like the lock still works. Silence is a power move. Toxic people expect you to engage. They bait you with accusations, jabs, or guilt trips because they know the moment you react, they've got you in the game. They feed off the back and forth because as long as you're talking, you're giving them energy, attention, and emotional access. But when you choose silence, you're doing something they can't stand. You're removing their stage. You're telling them without a single word that their performance isn't worth a ticket. And here's the beauty of silence. It doesn't just end the argument, it shifts the dynamic. They can yell, accuse, or try to get under your skin, but if you're not biting, the conversation dies right there. You're not giving them the emotional fireworks they came for. You're not feeding the loop. And the moment they realize they can't get a rise out of you, they start running out of reasons to keep coming back for more. Control your emotional access. Toxic people aren't just after your time, they're after your reactions. They want the sigh, the frustration in your voice, the look on your face when they've gotten to you. Because every reaction is proof that they still have influence. That's the currency they trade in. The moment you give it to them, they know exactly which buttons to press next time. But here's the shift. You start treating your emotions like VIP access. Not everyone gets a backstage pass. You can hear their words, see their behavior, and still keep your calm locked down. That doesn't mean you're ignoring reality. It means you're refusing to perform for their drama. You keep your voice steady. You answer in measured tones, if you answer at all. You let their chaos stay on their side of the fence. The less you feed into their little power plays, the less power those plays actually have. And over time, they'll realize there's no payoff in trying to pull you in because you're no longer giving them what they came for. Detach without guilt. A lot of people stay tangled up with toxic personalities because they've been convinced that walking away is selfish, cold, or unkind. They think they owe the other person endless chances, endless explanations, and endless patience, even when it's draining them dry. But the truth is, you are not responsible for someone else's refusal to respect your peace. Detachment doesn't mean you hate them, and it doesn't mean you're wishing them harm. It means you've decided that your mental clarity is worth more than their chaos. It's like taking your hand off a live wire. The wire's still there, but you're no longer letting it shock you. You can care about someone and still step back from them. You can hope they change while knowing you're not going to stick around and get burned in the meantime. Guilt is the hook toxic people love to use because it keeps you standing in the same spot, tolerating the same treatment. But once you stop buying into the idea that you owe them your presence, you start realizing how light it feels to walk away without having to apologize for it. Shift from defense to decision. The second you start defending yourself, you've already handed over control of the conversation. You've made their opinion the judge and jury, and now you're trying to win a case you never needed to be in. Toxic people love this because defense keeps you stuck in their arena. But when you move into decision mode, everything changes. You stop answering questions designed to trap you, and you start making choices designed to protect you. You're no longer trying to convince them you're right. You're simply deciding what you will and won't participate in. That's the difference. Defense is reactive. It waits for them to swing and then scrambles to explain why you don't deserve the hit. Decision is proactive. It decides there's no reason to stand in the line of fire in the first place. You're not here to win their approval. You're here to decide what's healthy for you and then live by it without turning every choice into a debate. Use calm, short responses. Toxic people thrive on pulling you into long, exhausting conversations that go in circles. They'll take one simple point and stretch it into an all-night debate, not because they're trying to understand you, but because they want to wear you down until you give in. That's why keeping your responses short and calm is such a game changer. Phrases like, "That doesn't work for me, I'm not available for that," or "We'll have to agree to disagree," don't give them much to work with. You're not giving them extra material to twist, and you're not letting them escalate the emotion. A calm tone is key, because if they can't rile you up, they can't keep the fight alive. It's not about being cold or dismissive, it's about keeping control of your energy. Every extra sentence you add is another thread they can pull on, so you cut the thread before it unravels. The less you feed the conversation, the quicker it runs out of steam, and the quicker they realize you're not playing the game. Remember, they lose interest when they lose control. Toxic people operate like fishermen. They cast out bait in the form of jabs, drama, guilt, or manipulation, and they wait for you to bite. The moment you do, they start reeling you in. But if you stop taking the bait, the game stops being fun for them. Control is their oxygen. It's how they measure their impact on you. When they can get you angry, flustered, apologizing, or over-explaining, they feel powerful. But when you stop giving them those reactions, it's like cutting off their air supply. They'll try harder at first, bigger hooks, sharper bait, because they're used to getting a rise out of you. But if you stay consistent, they start to realize they're spending a lot of effort for zero payoff. And without control, there's nothing to keep them invested. People who thrive on chaos will eventually look for someone else to play their game with, because your silence, boundaries, and calm aren't entertaining for them anymore.